Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, I'm making my return to the D&D BECMI series. And so now it's time to take a look at the companion rule set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my first look and review through the booklet, and then I'll also use the PDF as well. And then I'll just be focusing on pointing out what is new from this set when we transitioned from the expert set. So if you're not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, the BECMI series of box sets is that each one added on to the previous. So we started off with basic, and that just covered levels 1 through 3. The companion, the expert set then added levels 4 through 13, and it also included wilderness and just expanding the experience for the players, both in the world and with their own characters. Because at level 9, much of the enhancement to the character classes really begins to kick in, so they can choose to go in different branches. So they could become mystics or druids or paladins at that point, depending on their initial class and and the level that they hit. Usually around level 9, those kick in. So what the companion set does is it takes that next leap forward, levels 14 through 25, I believe. So let's start taking a look at it. And the first thing I want to do is, I want to go to the physical copies. I do have physical copies of everything that I'm showing you on the channel here. So unless there isn't a physical copy available, then I'll use just the PDF. But for the most part, especially with these older with these older content that I cover, I have the physical copy as well. What I like to do for this particular video is that I'm going to use the physical copy just to showcase the artwork, because it is phenomenal artwork. So we go back in and we will go to the illustrations are Larry Elmore and Jeff Easley. The editing is by Anne Gray. Overall editing is by Frank Metzner. And as we go, we start off with the changing game. And so the upper levels. So now you have a 15th level character, and the entire dynamic of the game's focus shifts once you start dealing with characters levels 15 through 25 in this series. So as we start taking a look at it, in the last booklet, we concentrated on characters developing a stronghold. Now it's going to go a step beyond that, and I'll spend some time with that. But like I said, I'm going to use this for the artwork in particular. So we have some new weapons that are included. So there's the bastard sword, there's the blowgun, there's the heavy crossbow, the blackjack, the net, and the trident, and the whip. All right, I almost missed trident because of where they put it, and actually I missed bolo because of where they put it. Like I said, it's the first time I'm actually flipping through this book, and if I did have it back in a day that was 35 plus years ago. So it really is a new experience for myself as well. Some of the other new content, is going to be Unarmed Combat, and I'll switch over to that. I just wanted to the other view. I just wanted to show you the interior artwork of this is just breathtaking. This is Larry Elmore. I mean, even the small images that are on these pages, and I really appreciate in the physical copy when looking at images more so than the PDF, because I think it's impressive the fact that this booklet is almost 40 years old, and yet the pictures are still hanging hanging up there. They're still crisp, and the pages are still, the printing is still nice and clean, and just amazing to have physical copies. I mean, it really does make you want to play a druid character when you see things like this. Very inspiring looking things here. Here we have a transformation, a polymorph taking place here. Some more. A little bit more here. Even just the different art styles that they're using. And then we have the various maps that are going to be included. Now this set comes in a two booklet set. So that was the player's companion, and here is the dungeon master's companion. So let me switch over and we'll start taking a look at the content themselves. So here we go, and so changing of the game, the upper levels, travel or settle. So it's around this stage of the game when your characters are pushing levels 15 through 25 that they start to become guild leaders. They become powerful enough to become kings or queens, and they just start becoming the heroic figures of legend, at these upper levels. And in the older iterations of Dungeons and Dragons, it was pretty rare to have characters lasting to those upper levels. It's just, you have to be very very cautious of what you have your character doing in order for them to survive that long. Especially if you played with DMs like I did that didn't believe in having resurrection spells in the game. So it was, I had one character that actually survived up to a multi-class 18 and 13, I believe, if I recall correctly. But certainly it was 18. He was definitely a master thief, and then the 13 was fighter. But here's what's new. So we have unarmed combat is introduced, and even if it did exist previously, it's getting more detail coming in here. So you have different striking procedures, and the effects of stuns and knockdowns, optional rules for striking. You have wrestling, which is a different style of unarmed combat, wrestling procedures as well. Um, Now, previously, we go into strongholds now. So, previously, strongholds were introduced. So now they're going into additional staffing for those. So a little bit more detail as far as having skilled laborers. They talk about wilderness once again. Like if your stronghold is in the wilderness, having magistrates and just the cost of having. So here the the player character is hiring these people to manage their estate, their stronghold, their manor, their land holdings, and you can see how expensive some of these hirelings will be for them, and the fact that they might have to hire quite a number of them is you start running into the tens of thousands, if not more, gold pieces per month to run one of these manors. Incredible artwork. I hope you could see that, like what I was talking about, where, as amazing this is, when you see it on the actual page, I think the actual page just looks better. They go into the character classes and new spells. We're going to skim over this very quickly. And we want to get to they have the monsters at appropriate levels for here as well. Back into some spells. Now the PDF combines both booklets. So clan relics for demi-humans. It goes into dwarf set at the higher levels now. So instead of experience levels, they're given an attack rank instead. Same with halflings; they just start going through rank A through K. Now we get to the Dungeon Master's Companion, and we get into a discussion on or an explanation of the level of play that you're now interacting with your characters in the world here, and a section on the fantasy world. So part 2 of the fantasy world and dominions. So dominions are beyond strongholds. All right, and they talk about it here. At name or higher levels of play, the characters may build strongholds. The basic cost of building a stronghold is given in the expert, page 23. The strongholds must be located in the lands of your D&D campaign world. Your map should have each stronghold location marked on the characters, marked on it. Characters with strongholds may or may not be rulers. The following section provides information on how to be a ruler. All right, so having the stronghold is the first step, and then controlling or gaining control of a dominion is the next step. Clerics may have independent dominions, but they do not swear an oath or service of fealty to anyone but the theocracy, the leaders of the church. Fighters usually do well as dominion rulers, powerful and yet free to join with the fight against anyone. Magic users do not usually establish dominions, but can easily work within the dominion system if desired. Thieves may also rule in this way, but their guild duties must be fulfilled as well. Demi-humans normally do not care for human politics at all. Their political leader is their clan master, and their religious leader, the keeper. Alliances and treaties are common between demi-human clans, human dominion rulers, and independent magic users. So, setting up some of the basic concepts of a dominion. So how do you obtain it? There's 5 methods of obtaining a dominion. There's founding one. There's a land grant, so you're granted by the ruler a certain domain to have control over. There's colonization, so a PC may be authorized by his or her liege to settle a new dominion in a liege's name. The liege will help in some way, usually with either troops or funds, to establish dominions. There's enfeoffment. A PC may be called upon by others, either rulers or peasants, to rule over them. And then there's conquest. Any player may obtain a dominion by the oldest method in history, conquering it. The dominion must be gained through combat or threatened combat to be a conquest. We go into dominion administration. Like I said, I just want to reiterate, we're talking about extremely powerful characters once you get to those levels 14 through 25. Dominion expenses, establishing holidays. There'll be attending nobles and knights within a dominion. I mean, it really is, you're creating your own, the player characters are creating their own campaign setting almost. It's like they're on the verge. I'm going to say this, that when you start dealing with very powerful characters like this, a lot of DMs, at least in my experience, will offer these very powerful characters who develop strongholds and dominions and stuff to shift and become NPCs for future adventures in that gaming world. And that's something that happened with my character, who was 18th level and I think 13th level multi-classed, was that he was offered to to become an NPC through a different means. He actually became a quasi deity in that particular campaign, and followed the Dragon Magazine rules for doing that. And this is something that I would generally do as well, is give players the choice to quote unquote retire their character, especially once they get beyond the level ranges of any of the official adventures out there, which usually happens around 18th level or so. I'm just scrolling through a little bit faster. I think we're into mass combat. All right, and mass combat is going to become a major aspect of actually playing the game at this level. So you're going to start to realize that this is moving more out of the adventure party RPG that you're used to, and becoming much more of a mass combat simulator. And not necessarily with tabletop, figures for troops or other kinds of tokens or whatever, but it could still very much be theater of the mind at this level. But it's starting to make that shift towards there, and you'll start to realize that as you're going through BECMI in sequence. And In part three, they start to introduce the multiverse because as your characters become very powerful, they might start adventuring on different planes of existence, and so that's another level that Dungeons and Dragons will take characters to, and that's just like a whole new aspect to the game. So you're no longer adventuring on Greyhawk, you're adventuring on Greyhawk and then accessing some kind of a means to travel to a different dimension, a different, whether it be like Avernus and you're going to the layers of hell in order to fight a threat to the world back there. This is where your characters start to become world savers and players on that level of a campaign. So elemental planes, and there's the vortexes and wormholes. This is how you gain access. There's going to be magic portals, I'm sure. Getting into it, procedures of aging, constructs. So we go into age here. Aging in a D&D world, disease, blindness, and other afflictions can be easily cured by a cleric. Spells, furthermore, the Raise Dead and Raise Dead Fully spell seems to bestow near immortality, but this is not quite true. Character aging should be carefully restricted element of the game. When a character reaches the end of a long natural lifespan, magical means of prolonged or restoring life should have little or no effect. The raise spell should only restore a character for a brief period, 1 to 10 days, or whatever the DM chooses. The following ages of recommended as a maximum for character races. So humans is 100. Halflings are 200, dwarves are 400, and elves are 800. You'll notice that dwarves and elves have a percentage that is added. So it's a percentile die, so 2 percentile die. So it would be anywhere from 750 to potentially 950. Dwarves would be up to 475 potentially. Halflings up to 230, and humans as high as 117, if I did my math right there. Hit point maximums, so they do have that here as far as your maximum number of hit points based on level and max hit points. So a thief could have the dice rolls, 36 dice rolls, con bonus of 27. Their maximum at level 36 would be 117 hit points. Much, much lower than some newer players to Dungeons and Dragons are probably used to dealing with. These aren't the high hit points, high damage outputs that you see in modern 5e, for example. Get into treasure, the monsters list, so just additional monsters, just upping the scale of even the monsters that were included earlier on. You're getting higher level versions of them, larger, or monstrous sized versions of them, and so on. So they all up the scale and power here. For the most part, there's very little duplication in the monster sections of BECMI. So you do eventually need all the way up through, I believe, Masters. It doesn't go to Immortals. Doesn't introduce new monsters. or at least I have to double check. When I get to that review, you'll see it, and we'll discover it together. All right, this is just a list of new magic items. Now, somewhere I saw a reference. I'm gonna shift out of this. Somewhere I saw a reference where it was saying that your next step from hitting these levels here in the companion rule set is that you do move on to masters, and masters is really the path towards godhood or demigodhood. That's where your characters are really, the stuff of legends. And, even though you're going to experience some of that at this level as well, a level 25 is an incredibly high level to have your character at. So once you start getting into the tail end of companion and you start moving into the masters, at that point, you're really dealing with characters that are, more appropriate, at least in my opinion, more appropriate to be NPCs, or you're going to use them for, one shot super high level adventures that are, world changing. But anyway, that's just my opinion. So listen, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's it's a real refresher for myself to look back at these, older editions of Dungeons and Dragons. Even though at this time, by the time this came out, I was more into AD&D First Edition. Just looking back at this, I could see that there's a great deal of appeal to going back and running a BECMI campaign like I have been doing for the last 3 months or more, and just bringing your character group through, starting with basic, moving to expert, and then hopefully to companion as you keep on moving forward, and the game just unravels itself for the players to see and understand it on a pace like that. I think is much more valuable than giving them the D&D rules cyclopedia, which has all of these are combined up into that. But that allows players to then look forward and to start to say, well, when am I going to get here? And I'm starting to contemplate, like I want to get involved with this. How do I set this up? I think it's better to have it paced out this way. But again, that's just opinion based. So, you do whatever you find is best for your campaign, or, best for your play style if you're a player, and you just keep on enjoying Dungeons and Dragons the way that is best suited to you. So once again, thanks for joining. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and comment and share these videos out. The channel is growing, and I'm hoping that once we get to once the channel gets to 800 subs, so it's about 13 subs away from that mark, I'm going to be giving doing some giveaways, at 800 subs. So I'm looking forward to that, and just keep on enjoying gaming. You all have a great afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. Take care.